Hello everyone, this is the Eachine US65, featuring 603 19,000 kV motors, Crazy Bee F3 flight controller with an OSD, and either a FlySky or FrSky receiver. You can also wire in your own receiver. Also on the Crazy Bee is a 6 amp ESC, a 700 TV line CMOS camera with 48 channels and 25 milliwatt. It runs on 1S batteries like this one, and these work too. It weighs 22 grams. With the included battery, it weighs almost 29 grams. Motor post to motor post, I'm getting 65 millimeters, just like this, and that too. The kit linked below also comes with 3 batteries, a charger, extra props, a prop remover, rubber bands, random screws, and a screwdriver. So if you're looking at this thinking, why this one? Well, probably because you want some extra color at your frame, whether it's your country or another country. This comes in, just the 2 ready to flies come in 2 different countries, US and UK. You can buy the canopy and frames for a number of other countries, and I'll link below those other countries, why they're not doing ready to flies with those other country colored frames. I just couldn't say. I don't have any idea. The main difference between this one and the UR65 that we've seen before is the KV in motors. And I found that it didn't necessarily decrease flight time, nor did I necessarily tell the difference in flight. I think sometimes when it comes to tiny little changes that I'm not as discernible. So take a close look at the flight footage. Also take a look at my UR65 video, take a look at the flight footage and see if you can tell a difference, because me, when I'm flying it, I really couldn't tell the difference. One thing I can tell the difference is the way this product feels. It just feels like they've changed the plastic in some way. Maybe it's so they could hydro dip it, but let me get the other one back out. So this plastic feels more flexible, and obviously it has a different texture to it, but this feels slightly more rigid. It also feels thicker, especially around the hoops. This could all be a placebo. I don't know, but that's what I think of the frame itself. Maybe you can tell, possibly, by just holding it up in some way. Maybe you can see some density difference. Maybe it's just the hydro dipping. I don't know anything about hydro dipping. I've seen videos. I've seen people walk through the process. But as far as it actually changing the materials you dip in it and to make it feel or look different, I don't know. So this could just be hydro dipping, and it makes this frame look like this and feel different. but it's something that I thought I should note. You know, for a brushless indoor flyer, this may be perfect for someone who has a smaller space. I know I've done a number of different brushless whoops or this style of quad, and I fly them in the house. And our house is fairly large. We live in the Midwest. Real estate is cheap. My wife and I have good jobs. We're not early in our careers, so you know, we have 3 kids, so we kind of have space. We're very fortunate in that regard. But if you have a smaller home, or maybe you have a garage you want to fly in or something like this, this might be more suited. And as you learn, or as you grow, or as you decide to fly more aggressively, if that's something you're interested in, this canopy design is great. And you can increase your camera angle. It can be a little bit fussy. Now, I don't know if originally on the US65 I cranked the camera angle up, no problems. On this one, I did find that after a couple of crashes, there's a little nubbin. I call it a nubbin because a technical term there, nubbin. It holds the camera in place here in the back. That kind of got folded up and bent up. So then whenever I have a crash, then the camera would end up down low and I'd have to readjust. So my weight that you saw on the scale might be slightly heavier than where it comes stock, because I added some glue around the camera mount on the bottom, and then I took a bent up prop and I kind of smushed the glue up in there, and I used hot glue in order to keep my camera in place. So the weight might be off. Also, that little nubbin isn't very big, so be prepared that if you take some heavy crashes, that little nubbin might bend back or snap off to where it doesn't hold your camera in very well. One thing that I do like about how the canopy mounts up, and it's just slightly different. This is another frame change from the UR65. Let me just take it apart here a little bit so you can see it. So you can see right here, this is a minor little thing, but on this one, I believe this didn't actually exist right here. It was much smaller, and so you had the possibility of screwing this one down too tight, and then the vibration dampening that might happen on your flight controller wasn't as effective. But with this plastic coming up right here, that will be much more effective, to where you can get this screw nice and taut through the hole, but you really shouldn't be decreasing your vibration dampening. Also, when you get yours, check yours out, because I noticed mine was misaligned, so I ended up taking it apart in order to make sure the grommets around these posts were in the right position so that they could be used properly. Hopefully you can see it possibly, but this right here is your bind button, and so you apply power either through USB or through a battery, and then you press that button for 2 seconds. That puts it in binding mode. I believe I bound mine in D8, and I did use the X-Lite again. That's my primary FrSky radio. When I fly DSM-X or DSM-2, I still use my Devo 10, and sometimes I just use my jumper just as something different to fly. I like to change things out from time to time, keeps things fresh. But you get a little shot of the board there. It's dead simple. You know, it's everything's on this board. So pretty much if it's not a motor problem, it's a board problem, so you're replacing the board. Good thing is these have been selling very, very well. So all the parts that we need for replacement or repairs, they're all readily available. That charger, you can get that if your charger burns out for some reason for like 15 bucks. You can get more props for $3. You can get more motors for 8 bucks. That seems kind of high because they're tiny, but sometimes you have to pay a premium for tiny too. It's not just about getting big. If you crack a canopy, you can get more canopies. And also in this baggie, I don't want to overlook this because I think it's pretty, I think it's a good idea that they did what they did, because the screws that come in these little things can be a little bit different than we have in our typical kit. You know, most of us might have M2 and M3 and maybe even some M2.5 hex screws, but these other screws that come in the US65, they can be difficult to source, and so they've included a few of these. Now this one right here, I'm not certain where this one should go. The longer one would be the replacement for the back here, and then this obviously goes in the side just like the other two did, that they're just off screen here. The rubber bands, I suspect those are to help keep your battery. You loop the rubber band around here, probably through the midsection, keeps your battery from sliding around. I didn't bother with that. And then we also have 2 other screws. Again, I think this is a motor screw here, and this one would also be about the same size. Maybe that is, oh, this is an extra screw for your canopy. So this little side screw here. This screw here, I am not certain what that one's for. I can't really match it up to anything. Maybe there's some little bit I haven't had a part to recognize. So this looks like it might work in replacement for that one. It should be long enough. I squished mine down a fair bit to get some extra camera angle. I did crank the camera angle up. about as much as I could and went for some fun runs, see how fast I could whiz around the house. It's all a good time. You know, I've had a lot of crashes, and the frame held up just as the other one did. I haven't been through any motors. I haven't busted any. I haven't had any problems with them. I've got these two, and I fly them quite regularly, along with the Beta 75X, which I did a review on just a few days ago. And I haven't had any durability issues. Matter of fact, the Twitch, I developed a Twitch. This is the Snapper 7. I developed a Twitch on this one shortly before I transferred it from the carbon fiber and aluminum frame over to this one, and I haven't quite sorted that out, but I haven't spent a lot of time with this one yet. Whereas I haven't developed that same Twitch on these. So there might be some vibration dampening differences in the design of the frame, possibly. I'm not certain, but it's something to be aware of, is that I have seen videos where these develop a twitch, which when I describe a twitch, you're flying along and everything seems smooth and good, and it'll just kind of snap or jerk or dirt. It's just a little tiny thing, but when you're in the goggles, it throws you off. Let me put this back together so we can finish the discussion. You know, this has all the features that you would expect to get, especially after the US65 coming out. You've got RSSI, you've got a current sensor, you've got the OSD, you've got a built-in receiver, which helps to keep your weight down. Your range might be limited there. You saw the flight footage in my house, which I have to admit, my house must like FPV, because I don't have problems usually with the FPV in the goggles or the radio link and controlling the vehicle. It just seems to work in the house. But if you're flying this outside, which I did fly it outside a fair bit, and it can be sufficient flyer, but it's going to need to be very, very calm outside. And there's going to be certain limitations to what this can do outside. It's brushless, so it's got more power than most brush whoops. So you will be able to combat that wind a little bit, but when you get yours, if you plan on flying it outside and you live in an area that the wind blows very much at all, it's probably going to frustrate you more than be fun. So in that case, I guess you can wait for the sun to set and the wind to go down and fly it inside before then. I felt the batteries performed fine. I think these batteries, according to the specs that they list, they are a hop up compared to the original batteries that came with the US65. Whether they actually are or not, I can't say for sure. You know, C rating is it's just part of the marketing label. It really doesn't seem to mean much anymore when it comes to our batteries. You can use that C rating to identify a battery to purchase, but it doesn't necessarily mean from one label to the next whether the C rating actually is a unit of measurement or not. It's just kind of a marketing mumbo jumbo, in my opinion. It has the turtle mode, or flip over after crash, as you would expect. So the nice thing is there, we do have a canopy that is round on the top. So if you do get upside down, you can right yourself without doing the walk of shame and going and getting it manually. I did get stuck a few times to where I was wedged between things. Turtle mode can't help us there, but if we land on a flat surface or on a surface we can get ourselves flat, turtle mode can save the walk of shame or save the day for us. It's also handy if you get stuck upside down high where you can't reach. If you're possibly stuck in a tree, you can turtle mode and reverse the props, and hopefully that allows the twigs to come loose or something of that nature. So you can do that. I think the shortcomings with these are oftentimes the cameras. And there are marginally better cameras than other cameras out there, and we're seeing some additional development. We've seen the actually I've got the Caddx EOS 2 review, as well as the Beta FPV 1200 TV line camera, but those cameras, both of them are going to add weight, so I can't think that we're going to do that. You may have a camera that you would prefer to use, and it should fit and swap out as long as it's kind of the same form and factor. And then this antenna saves a lot of weight too, because you'll note that it doesn't have that aluminum housing and the heat shrink across the top like these antennas typically do, so that saves you a little bit of weight there. Overall, I think these brushless whoops are a lot of fun. I think they're a great value. I think you can get one right now for $69, and I do believe that comes with the 3 batteries and the charger, so that's cheaper than these when these were coming out, and these things have been selling like hotcakes. But I do think that is coming to a close here relatively soon. I think they've been running 30% off on these for right now. If you're looking for battery recommendations other than these, I would go to tinyhoop.com. I would go to betafpv.com. If you like to shop on Amazon, I've used the Crazy Pony ones. I've used the Nitro Nectar ones. Some might be a little bit better than other, but the difference is not great enough to where I would definitely say, oh, pick this battery up, these others are junk. I've had difficulties with some of them puffing, not very many. and I've had so many flights on my batteries, I'm surprised they're still working, quite honestly. If you think about all the flights I've been through in the house just doing reviews, like if I get 25 to 50 flights on one of these things, and I can get easily 15 flights in over lunch, and I only need about 30 to 35 minutes in order to get that done, because we're only flying for at most 2.5 minutes with these things. And I've got 50 Whoop batteries, that's a lot. That's not even including the times where I'm just flying around just because I want to fly for whatever reason. Maybe I need a break from editing or a break from a build, so I decide to pop in a battery to something like this and just go fly. My batteries are tired, and to that point, you may find that your flight time is greater because my batteries have been so well loved. As far as the Pids, I'll put those on screen, but those are the same Pids I used on the UR65. I do think they need a little bit of work, but I think overall you'll find that those Pids will get you in the air and create a somewhat stable machine for you to fly. I think it could use a bit more P and a bit more D possibly. I did also modify the battery, and this is very subjective because you're going to need to know your batteries. If you want to hyper protect your batteries, you fly a little less long, and you're probably going to have the voltage a little bit higher when you land. I tend to want my batteries when I land to come down at 3.5 volts, but not in my Whoop batteries. In my Whoop batteries, I don't get nearly as concerned about that. If they come in at 3.3, when I'm sitting and landing, if I bump the arm switch back on so I can see the OSD, if they come in at 3.3 or 3.4, I'm okay with that. But that's very personal. If you want to protect your batteries, land sooner, land at a higher voltage, and they probably will last longer. If you want to fly and have fun, I don't suggest going any lower than the values that I've shown on the screen. It flips and rolls well, and not as well as a 2S Whoop, I'll say that for sure. But it's just a matter of timing and understanding where your throttle position needs to be for the catch of the flip or the roll. It's not something that I practice much. Yeah, I could do them. I could do them in the house. 9 times out of 10, especially when we have furniture, I end up smacking up against something just because the speed at which you travel at, if you try to do a roll or a loop when you're traveling at speed, whatever it is, whether it's a door opening or a piece of furniture, it sneaks up on you so quick you've got no time to correct. So if you didn't snap that thing, that roll or that flip right into place, game over. You've smacked something else then, because you can't correct quickly enough, at least not in my environment with the camera angle that I fly at. But I think you'll find that if you want to do flips and rolls, this does it just fine. Work on that PID tune a little bit and you'll get that bounce back out of there. I've got a little bit of bounce back in my PID tune. It's relatively minor, but you do have to jam the throttle. When you come out of that loop or that flip, you need to jam the throttle, not 100%, but you'll figure it out. Practice it, you'll get it. And flying inside, I said this in the last video, so those people that heard this little spiel, I apologize, but if you just come here because you're looking at this, I think it's a helpful tip that when you're flying, I fly rate mode or acro or without self-leveling in the house. I pretty much fly it whenever I can when doing reviews. But what you find is when you fly, you have to arrest the speed. As you approach a turn, you won't be necessarily tipping back like this, but you'll be going from this position to a little bit of a flatter position so that you can get around your turn. These aren't bad because their weight is so low, but you can't just go into a turn, or at least I can't. You can't keep your nose down, because traditionally when you go into a turn, you might even nose down a bit more, hit the throttle a little bit harder to keep your nose down so you can tear right out of the turn. Indoor, you kind of have to pitch back to arrest that speed and then turn with it. And you'll kind of figure that out as you fly. If you choose to fly like I like to fly, that you do a lot of pitching back and then you recover. And the better you get at that, the less noticeable it is in your FPV view, because you're managing that more smoothly as you're coming in and out of the turn. You're kind of leveling yourself off and pitching back up in order to regain that speed that you may have arrested as you make your turn through, whether it's a 36-inch doorway or something much larger. You need to arrest that speed in order to make your next move, whether that's down a hallway or away from another object. Speed can be carried so much that it makes the next stick movement harder, so you have to arrest that, especially if you go around a blind corner like I do around the house all the time. As well as I know the house, most of those corners that I come around are still blind. I have an idea about how much space I've got, but it still takes, I crash all the time still. Probably 1,000 flights inside, and I still crash all the time. And crashing's part of this hobby, and it's kind of fun. So I've droned on too long. I think this product is a good product, whether you get one that's hydro dipped in your country flag or another country flag just because you like the look. Maybe you hydro dip it yourself. If you just want plain Jane and an original, you've got the UR65 out there. I'll link them both down below. I do think this is the one that's on special, but check out the pricing. Remember, this one came with, I believe it's 2 or 3 batteries. I believe it's 3 because these 3 are all labeled and I didn't have those before. You also get the charger. And again, I think it was a really good thing that they included those extra little screws. So if you happen to need to do a repair and a screw goes bouncing off the floor and is gone, you've got at least one spare, and I think every case on the machine that you'll be able to go to this baggie and get yourself back up in the air. If you have any comments, questions, suggestions, or otherwise, please leave those in the section down below. I appreciate your time, and thanks for watching.